War is nothing more than the power-hungry elite playing games with the lives of the civilian class, and with it, what do we see? Smedley Butler was absolutely right. War is a racket. It is the only one international in scope, and with it is the only thing with which profits are reckoned in dollars and losses in lives. A recent bombshell drop from Tucker Carlson from a post on Twitter has showed that Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin has said that they will gladly send your family members to go fight and die for Ukraine. And with this is a perfect example of the fact that if you're not willing to subject to the rule of the oligarchs, they will send your sons and daughters to go fight and die in the conflicts that they demand you submit to. Let's go ahead and get into this. Starting with Tucker Carlson on Twitter, the Biden administration is openly threatening Americans over Ukraine. In a classified briefing in the House yesterday, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin informed members that if they don't appropriate more money for Zelensky, quote, we'll send your uncles, cousins, and sons to fight Russia, end quote. Pay the oligarchs or we'll kill your kids. And what we would call this is extortion, my dear friends. Now, what do we see? We go on in community notes says, Austin warned Congress Tuesday that if lawmakers fail to pass more aid to Ukraine, that it will very likely lead to U.S. troops on the ground in Europe defending NATO allies and other countries Russia may target next. Well, they were already making this argument in the very beginning of the actual war itself. When Putin first went into Ukraine, they're like, oh, well, now he's going to go into Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, then he's going to go into Poland, and then he's going to go into Germany. He's going to reconstitute the Soviet bloc. Except that's not what was going to happen. But nonetheless, this is what was always the talking points. They would simultaneously say things like this, that Vladimir Putin was a madman, and he's a psychopath, and he was going to reconstitute the Soviet Union and re-expand the empire, and that he was the biggest threat that the world has seen on the global stage in years since that of the Austrian painter that, well, destroyed Germany. And what do we see? We see that they also use the same exact argumentation of, well, actually, you can go ahead and not worry about him because it's really not that big of a deal, because actually he can't even take Ukraine, and realistically Putin's too weak, and actually we need to fund Ukraine because this small country can handle this war against this massive empire. You've got to make up your mind. You can't talk out of both sides of your mouth with this. Unless you're trying to spew propaganda, and with it you're trying to confuse people, and with it they won't actually have a solid understanding of what's going on, and with that you can consistently trick them. I don't know if that's actually the case, just a thought. We go on and we see Elon Musk. He really said this. Tucker says he really did, confirmed. Vivek saying when persuasion doesn't work, they use threats next. Absolutely true. Now on to Joe Kent. Joe Kent running for Congress in Washington. What do we see? What does he have to say? Austin's top priority is making defense contractors rich, not securing our nation. Now that the money might stop flowing, he's getting desperate. Austin could be removed from office or have his salary taken down to $1 by Congress. Don't worry, Raytheon will make sure he gets paid. Solid tweet, solid statement. One thing we have to address is why Joe Kent is such a fascinating person. He will never give up on this crusade. And why is that? Well, it's because they got his wife killed. The deep state and the people that were consistently rigmaroling Donald Trump when he was trying to pull troops out of Syria, like he did multiple times, and with it, they lied to him about the troop withdrawals and the numbers of the people that they left there. And Joe Kent's wife was one of the people that was left there. And what happened? Well, they were attacked, and his wife is now dead. And with it, he's never going to drop this. And you're never going to have people like this who you have personally stained their life, and you've made their life objectively worse by the fact that you've caused the deaths of the people they love most. You will never get these people to stop fighting. And there's only going to be buildup of more and more and more. And with it, people need to realize that eventually there's a turning point, and people realize that the tree needs watering. And now we go into a tweet that I said, and this was just my initial response when I saw this. The words I want to use would have me banned indefinitely. I don't give a fuck about Ukraine. Send these tyrants to fight on the front lines where they got the youth of the Ukrainian children slaughtered. The same slaughter these monsters would gladly visit on those you love. I despise the political class, and with it, if I actually could use the words that I wanted to use, well, it'd be quite a colorful video indeed. Let's go ahead and get into the next part of this. We'll be starting off with this article from The Guardian, and it says, Welcome to Ukraine, the most corrupt nation in Europe. This was written in 2015. We will be just skimming through the titles of these and going through one of them specifically because I want to make some points All of them will be linked in the description down below. I've already gone through most of them in other videos making specific points using them, but nonetheless, if you'd like to go through them yourself, I highly recommend it. They will be in the description down below so you can go check them out. All of my links that I always use for all of my videos and basically all of my sources are always in the description down below so people can always go find them and go through them on their own time. What do we have now? Welcome to Ukraine, the most corrupt nation in Europe. While the conflict with Russia heats up in the east, life for most Ukrainians is marred by corruption so endemic that even hospitals appear to be infected. Can anyone clean the country up? This article is brutal. I really recommend reading it. Now we go on. A year after Maidan, Ukraine is still the most corrupt country in Europe. And what is Maidan? It's talking about the Maidan revolution in Ukraine in 2014 when Viktor Yanukovych was ousted by a coup that was from that of a bottom-up regime change pushed forward by the West. And what do we have? We now have the fact that Ukraine is supposed to be this bastion of democracy, and the fact that so many of the journalist class within the West during this war that's going on right now between Russia and Ukraine talk about how noble it is that Ukraine is fighting for, how important it is to stand for Western values. And with it, we see that Ukraine is still consistently talked about throughout the years, even before this conflict had started, as one of the most corrupt nations in all of Europe. And what do we have? We have the Biden administration sending them $200 billion, and with it, they want to send another $68 billion. And now what do we see? On to the AP. Ukrainian court puts an Orthodox leader under house arrest. There are rumors that this person was either giving aid to Russians, or they were assisting Russia, or they were either giving them, let's say, support when it comes to morale, because apparently when it comes to the nature of speaking out and talking openly against that of the Ukrainian regime, well, they don't really like that, and they have been arresting journalists, and with it, we can see that they've gone after people like Gonzalo Lira, an American journalist sitting in Ukrainian prison while Biden begs for billions. Biden wants to give billions of dollars to Ukraine while there's an American journalist sitting in jail. I thought we actually cared about American citizens. Is that the case? Or do we care about that of the world empire? Exactly. Joe Biden doesn't give a shit about an American citizen. And it's perfectly obvious that the people within the political class don't care about any of you. And with it, they would gladly send your sons and daughters, or as Lloyd Austin said, your nieces and nephews and your aunts and uncles to go fight and die in these conflicts because we have to make sure that we can hold off Putin. Isn't that just ridiculous? Seriously, think about that. That is what they think of you. They think of you as the pawn that they will gladly flick over and cast aside into the dustbin of history, as long as it means that they can move the inch of the standards of the world empire's borders 1 inch further. And what do we have? American Insider says American journalist Gonzalo Lira is now sitting in a Ukrainian prison cell after allegedly spreading Russian propaganda. The imprisonment has caused many to criticize American lawmakers and authorities who are currently considering sending billions in additional funding to Ukraine. Recently, the Biden administration has sought the approval of what would almost amount to $24 billion in funding to Ukraine from now until the end of December. While at the UN, Biden said that to invest in Ukraine is to invest in the future of every country that seeks a world governed by basic rules. This has caused many to question the loyalty of the administration. However, as Biden failed to mention the imprisoned American even once during his speech at the United Nations. And of course he did. It's either the fact that Joe Biden didn't remember it or he just doesn't care. Either way, Joe Biden's not going to remember a lot of the things that he's supposed to talk about because he's so old. He's just so mentally aloof because of the fact that, well, he's a sundowning old man. And what do we have here? We have this thread from Gonzalo Lira. It says, right now I'm about to try to get out of Ukraine and seek political asylum in Hungary. Either I'll cross the border and make it to safety, or I'll be disappeared by the Kiev regime. This is what happened to me over the past 3 months. And this is a thread. It's 1 of 25. As I said, link in the description down below. You can click on this and you can go through it, and he details everything that has happened to him. And with it, it's quite insane. Now, moving on, what do we see? Update, Gonzalo Lira never made it to Hungary. U.S. State Department confirms he is still in a Ukrainian prison. In a response to a query by Breitbart, the U.S. State Department has confirmed that Gonzalo Lira is still detained in a Ukrainian prison. Lira is a Chilean-American citizen journalist who was arrested in May for allegedly spreading Russian propaganda in Ukraine and tried to flee to Hungary in August while out on bond. And by Russian propaganda, they mean, well, he basically just wasn't towing the line of everything that the Kiev regime wanted people to say, and with it, he ended up getting persecuted. Gonzalo Lira, a 55-year-old citizen journalist with dual Chilean citizenship and American nationality, was living in Kharkiv, Ukraine when the Russian invasion of Ukraine started and made international headlines back in May, where he was arrested for allegedly spreading Russian propaganda during wartime. Then in early August, he popped back up again after months of silence in the most unusual way. He posted the English translation of his indictment to X, formerly Twitter, and what we see is this was a posting of series of videos to his YouTube channel as well, in which he was heading to the Hungarian border, admittedly trying to flee the country while he was out on bond. Since the video uploaded to his YouTube channel on August 1st, which has garnered 250,000 views since, there has been absolutely no word of his conditions or whereabouts. Now, however, thanks to reporting on the right-wing online publication Breitbart, we have an update. Unfortunately, it's not a good one. The U.S. State Department has confirmed that Gonzalo Lira is currently detained in a Ukrainian prison. This means that he was unable to cross the border to Hungary to seek political asylum, as he stated he was planning his fateful video and was most likely detained before crossing. Attempting to escape would be an additional charge if he was in the United States. While we are not aware if this is going to be the case under Ukrainian jurisdiction, it is safe to assume that he was blown and all of his chances of ever being granted any bond again have been shot. Well, isn't that just fucked? And now we go on here. Why the U.S. must stay the course in Ukraine. And here we have the journalist class. Once again, even when one of their own is sitting there suffering in prison in Ukraine for the fact of trying to speak out and simply saying what he believes is right, and even if he's wrong, he should be able to say it. But nonetheless, the journalist class doesn't even care that one of their own is rotting, and with it, they will gladly consistently toe the line of the establishment and say why we have to consistently stay in this fight. I'm going to go ahead and call it there. Thank you for watching if you got this far. Thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. Tell me where I'm wrong in the comment section down below. Give me some information on why you think I'm wrong, something I can read. I will gladly go through it, but nonetheless, you actually have to provide it. Stay lovely, stay great. Tell someone you love them. Peace out.